Welcome to Freedom and Glory, Tales of American Spirit, where we share inspiring stories of resilience, courage, and hope. Join us as we celebrate the people and moments that define our nation's values and remind us that even the smallest actions can spark lasting change. And here's your hosts, Liz Morris and Bill LeMay.
Today, we're thrilled to welcome Debbie Taylor, a dedicated business teacher at Cardinal Gibbons High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. Deb's creativity and passion for teaching go beyond textbooks. She brings real-world business experiences into the classroom, giving her students a chance to think, solve problems, and innovate like true entrepreneurs. Thanks for joining us, Debbie.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
I guess tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate in my lifetime to have two careers. So I started out in the business world and grew into the CFO of a real estate firm and did that for well over 20 years. And then my children got to an age where I just really wanted to be more engaged with them and available to them. And so I decided to go back and get my master's in education and become a teacher. So I have been teaching for the last 11, 12 years. I've lost count. But so I've had two careers that have been wonderful. And now where I am, I'm able to blend those two together in a really unique way.
Wow. And what brought you to North Carolina? Because I think you were in Alabama.
We were in Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Indiana and then we moved to Alabama. And then it's been 6 years ago now. My husband took a job in Wake Forest, North Carolina. And so we decided to come over here. And our youngest son was actually the kicker for the Campbell Camels. So,
Yay.
Right.
Yeah.
So we came over here so that we could be closer to him and to watch some of his games a little more easily. And then I took a job with Cardinal Gibbons right when we got here. So
what is it that you're doing, Cardinal Gibbons?
I am the business education teacher. I have several roles at the school, but in the last year, I really had the opportunity from the school to revamp our business program. So that's one of my key roles. I'm also the director of equity and justice for the school, which has expanded in the last several years. And we have lots of different affinity groups at the school that I help oversee and build community amongst our student body.
You know, one of the things about public education, sometimes we don't see the forest because of the trees. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if that might be a case with you, because I know you're involved in an entrepreneur class as well. I mean, how does public schools address business, for instance, and entrepreneurship and critical thinking today?
Right. Well, I've worked in public school, so Cardinal Gibbons is private.
It's private,
right.
Yes.
But I will tell you that in public school, a lot of times, we really get stuck in reading, writing, math, and we really feel like in some cases we define success by how they do in those classes, but students are gifted in so many different areas.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, public education has trimmed back on the arts and in some of their business classes that they offer. And so it really has impeded the growth that students could have in those areas. And it's also sometimes hard to find educators in the field of business. Oftentimes you want to marry the experience with the education background. And so you don't have a lot of business educators that are certified in the field to be able to work in the public school environment because they want certified educators. In the private sector, you can have business individuals come in and teach without the certification. You have that flexibility.
That seems crazy to me.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying it out. That seems crazy.
Yeah.
You have a successful businessman, you would think that would be credentialed enough.
Correct. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And it's unique in that I am certified in business and also have the experience. And so I was the only one in the school certified in the area of business, and there was a need to really grow and revamp the program. And so I fit into that. Prior to that, I've always taught English. So it was a shift for me, but it's really been neat to get back at it and marry the two experiences together. But I would agree with you. If you have had a 20-year career in business, then you should be automatically credentialed and be able to teach in a public school environment without having to have that certification.
I think if you're in business for 20 years, that's it. That's a credential.
Yeah.
Well, you
Right.
should be teaching as well.
Yes, she should. She's come
Yeah.
to my class.
Yeah.
Actually, she's been a guest speaker in my class and really did a great job with talking about marketing to the students because, marketing, as you know, is changing day by day. And it really makes sense. You want the kids to hear from someone who's got their feet in the ground with it, right? If we're looking at textbooks right now about marketing, then we're not serving our kids. So it's really neat to bring in experts in their field and let them really talk to the kids about what experience is and their experiences and how it's changing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And I mean, I was really impressed with her students. And I think Debbie already said it. She really blends textbook learning with real experience. And I think we talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship class because I think it's really cool kind of how you've brought in some local experiences for the students.
Yeah, I will. I've got a couple of different classes that we have at the school. One is the business leadership and management, and then we've kind of expanded and we're growing into the entrepreneurship program. The business leadership and management class is really set up as different modules. It's almost like having a mini MBA course in a semester. So I really expose the students to all different types of business avenues. So we might talk about human resources or marketing or accounting, business analytics, supply chain. We're going to talk about all those different facets of business because the students really have such incredible opportunities anymore when they go to college to really identify a specific area. So my role is to give them a taste of what each of those is like. And you might have a student that's more creative and they're going to really enjoy the marketing side and perhaps, understanding the backside of posting something on Instagram and then looking at all that data and that feedback. So on the creative side, but you might have somebody that's real data interested and mathematical. And so then they really latch on to the supply chain and the business analytics side of things. So it's really neat to see that my class is a class that has a lot of different students with different abilities and interests, but they kind of find their niche in business and kind of identify avenues that they might want to pursue in the future. So with those different modules, I try to bring in experts in each one of those fields. So like Liz came in for marketing. I have someone come in from human resources. I have somebody come in from banking that we talk about money and banking. That's what we start with. Because if the kids, I tell them if they can't take care of their own house, there's no way that they can take care of a business. And so we start with money and banking and what does that mean for them? And to the point of if you graduate from college and you have an $80,000 job, that sounds fantastic when you graduate from college. But then when you look at all those taxes that are going to come out and you realize you're going to have to live on about 50. And the realization for those students to be like, oh how am I going to make my $50,000 flow? And here's how much rent is. And we walk through and they see that, oh my goodness, that sounds great. 80, 88,000 or whatever hopefully they're making that as a starting salary. They may not be, right? And so they see how much it really takes to live on. So it's really great to start there and then build.
So you're teaching reality.
We are.
Wow.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
I know. I want to go back in time and take her class.
Yeah, I would be further ahead
It's
of
really
her.
impressive. I mean, this is a little weird because I already know some of this information, but I just think it's so interesting how at school you all have kind of developed different programs for students to apply, what they learned.
Right. It's really, really unique in that we have two different businesses that run within the school. And one is called Holy Grounds, and that is a cafe experience. We call it's a Holy Grounds cafe and soda box. So we sell everything from your cold brew to nitro cold brew, all kinds of coffees. We do all kinds of sodas. Dirty sodas are really popular right now. So we have this operation that runs every day. It's open from 7:50 to 3:30. And the students in my business class are required to work 4 hours at the cafe. And what that's allowing them to do is to take the things that we're learning in the classroom and put it into practice. So it really applies that knowledge. And one of the big components of learning is the fact that you can cram information into students all day long, but they're not going to retain it. But the moment they take that information and they put it into action, that's when they learn. And so that's what Holy Grounds allows them to do, is to see that in action. So it's one thing for me to talk to them about revenue in the classroom, but then to look at it and say, okay, we sold $3,000 worth of product this week. What does that mean? Well, did we make $3,000? No, we had to pay for our product, right? And so really seeing how that works has helped expand their knowledge of business, and it's been great to see them grow in a lot of different ways. We also have a store at the school. It's called Gibbons Goods, and the students work there as well. And so one of the projects last semester was they totally revamped the inventory system. So we talked about inventory as an asset, but they actually learned how to bring product in when you get it, how you price it, how you put it out on the shelf, how you count it, how it has value. What happens if you don't sell it? What happens if it's just sitting there? Where do you mark the price to help get the maximum amount of value? So it's really been a great learning experience for them to apply those things that we're talking about in the classroom in real world settings. And then they also have the opportunity to go out and shadow someone in the community. So as part of that class, they spend one whole day in the field at some sort of business related office, or, I've had someone they've shadowed pharmaceutical sales and learned the business side of that. So they can branch out and shadow really anyone that they want, as long as there's a business component. And that has been so incredibly rewarding for me to hear their reflections after they do that, and how they may be sitting in on a meeting and they're talking about ROI, and suddenly the student's like, oh my goodness, we talked about that in class and I understand what they're talking about.
I don't want to brag, but I ran the school store when I was.
You did?
Yeah, yes, I did. I don't think I learned all the things that you were citing there. No, I certainly did. But I am curious, how has this been received? And, even initially, to get to where you are today with the entrepreneur class, how did that even come to be? You must have seen a need that needed, filled. How big a need is there, I guess, is my question.
Pretty significant. I was looking the year prior to taking over the class. At the end of each year, our seniors put out on Instagram like little cards, and it's like, I'm going to Duke, or I'm going to UNC, and I'm going to NC State, and then they put, here's what I'm going to major in. I was shocked to find out how many of our students intended to major in business. And then I looked at the business program we had, and I went to our head of academics at the time, and I said, we have so many kids that are majoring in business, and I really feel like our program is not strong enough because it's incredibly competitive. They can declare that they're going to go to college and study business, but they have to apply to get into those schools of business, and that's competitive. And I was talking to some students that were coming back after they graduated, and they said, accounting was really hard for me, and I feel like I had to take it in this first semester, and I didn't do really well, and I'm afraid that's going to keep me from getting in. And so I went to our head of academics, and I said, we really need to look at what we're doing in our business program so that we give these kids the best possible leg up when they go out and apply into these schools of business. So that was really my focus. How can I get these kids enough exposure and experience so that when they apply into that school of business, they have practical knowledge, they have practical experience. And so that's really how we formed the whole program as it's grown. And then we've been fortunate enough to have players in the business world that I was able to reach out to at the school and introduce them to the things that I wanted to do. And they have been fully supportive. And so they have helped me along the way because I use them as mentors. So I sit down and I said, hey, here's my syllabus. What do you think? And they give me their feedback and say, you know what, this is happening in the world right now. This is happening. So with every new, even this entrepreneurship program, and I'm revamping the class even a little bit more this semester because it's coming up. And I sat down with one of my mentors and I said, I want you to look at this. These are the 6 different areas and tracks that these students can study. What do you think about it? So it's really been helpful for me to have some people in the business world that I can go to and say, what is happening in the world today and how can I change this to better serve our students?
It's incredibly innovative, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Inspiring to Yeah, I think that's what I try
Are people
and do.
modeling your program? I'm just wondering.
Right.
Well, as a
because
matter of fact, yeah.
it sounds like every school could use it.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. And we have talked about that and kind of boxing this up, if you will, and helping other schools have an experience like this.
Transform your space and build pride in your organization. Carrot Top's custom flags and products are designed to help your school, business, or facility stand out and inspire. Explore your options today at carrot-top.com/custom. That's carrot-top.com/custom.
Do you notice the kids in school? I mean, it's easy to say, I'm going to take business. I'm going to do this, but it's such a broad category. No one really, maybe I'm living my life. It's a nice thing to say. I don't have a clue about it. Is that generally where most kids are, like, let's say in high school, and now we're looking at college, they say this, but really don't have any understanding what it means?
I do. I see that probably, I would say 25 to 30% of the students that come into the class have no idea. Now, the other 70% of the class, 60% of the class, their parents are in the business world and they have an intimate knowledge of what is going on. Because what I'm finding with this generation of students, their parents are very entrepreneurial. Rather than in my generation, my parents always worked for someone else and it was, you go work for a big company. What I'm finding with my students now is there's just a very entrepreneurial nature to their parents. And so they hear a lot of things at home and they have an idea of perhaps what they want to do and what angle in business they want to go into. So they do come in with more knowledge than they would have, say, 10 years ago. So they have some pretty good ideas, which allows me to really challenge them even more and grow in their knowledge.
Well, you're running a business. Would you like to work for someone else, or is it better to basically call the shots and know everything that you need to know? I mean, I would prefer to be in that seat, to be honest with you.
Yeah, depends on your comfort with failure and taking risks, I think.
Yep.
If you want to take on that burden.
Yeah.
That challenge.
And that's what I talk to the students about is, if you're considering entrepreneurship, you're considering risk and you're considering failure and you have to be okay with that, or don't go that right. That's not your route.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you teach that?
I do.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you talk about failure?
Well, I ask the students, part of the course is that they have to read one book over the course of the semester. And one of the books that I talked to them about, which was very, very important to me in my career, is Failing Forward by John Maxwell. And it's so important because in most cases, when we fail, we really learn. And I tell the kids that you are going in business, you're going to face failure. And it's not the fact that you failed, it's what do you do with that failure? And we talk about that at length. Are you going to retreat and say, I'm done? Are you going to fail forward? And are you going to use that information that you just gained and help that to make you a different person or to help you make better decisions in the future? So I tell them that failure is an important component of growing, and that, find a way to, if you run, my license plate on my car for many, many years said, find a way. Because I'm the type of person that if I run into a brick wall, I'm not going to retreat. I'm going to figure out how to get through it, over it, around it, or under it. And that's what I want the students to walk away from my class and knowing that these walls are going to be put up, but it's how you handle those walls. What are you going to do? How are you going to, the failure of running into it one time, what are you going to do with that? So that's an important component to their growth in the business world.
That requires critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right.
You mentioned that you have mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Business changes constantly, right?
It does.
And from all different perspectives. And now we're technically changing in a way I never thought I thought it'd be dead long before we'd be having robots tell us what to do. Okay.
Right.
So what are your mentors saying, and what do you pass along to the kids? Because they're in a position where they have tools, right?
They do.
I never would have imagined.
Right. Well, and my mentors are all finding that they have to incorporate AI into their workplaces, and it's really changing the business environment. It's changing education. And I've been a proponent of, when it comes to AI, as educators, we have to embrace it because this is the world our students are living in. And the role of teaching has changed because they can get any information that they need right off of their cell phones. They can ask ChatGPT anything they want about the Civil War. They're going to get a list of information, right? And so as educators, we really have to change in thinking that we are disseminating information. What we need to do is teach the students how to ask the right questions, how to be inquisitive. So our schools really shifted into teaching the students inquisitive. And so in my class, it's not about me. I do teach them. I probably lecture 20 minutes every couple of weeks. But what I do is when I lecture, I say, okay, here's information. Now, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to use this information? What questions can you ask about what I told you? Or if we are researching a company, they need to know what to put into AI. What's the right question to put in there so that I get the information that I need? So our role is changing into encouraging them to be more inquisitive and to think about what they're doing with that information. So in a lot of ways, it's teaching them to be inquisitive, but also think critically about that information. Where did it come from? Who was the source? So it's not, so we're not using all of our time, just here's the facts, here's the facts, here's the facts. You can get the facts. Now that you have the facts, what questions are you going to ask?
And what are the facts?
Correct. Right. Yeah. So it's really teaching them to discern the information that they are receiving and then analyze and be critical and think critically about that information.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I went to a lecture the other day about, the way you ask ChatGPT questions can kind of drive some of the answers too.
Correct.
Which is so interesting. I mean, I think it does that to an extent in Google or whatever, but maybe even more with ChatGPT. And so I think it's, you really have to kind of think from different perspectives.
Right.
It's so interesting. I feel like there must be a lot of pressure on you to keep their attention. It feels like lesson planning and all that kind of stuff is like just to another level.
It is. It is. And because I want my classroom to be a place of activity, right? I don't want them to come in and think this is going to be a passive activity where I'm just going to give you information. So I'm constantly challenging myself on how can I creatively give them this content in a way that they're going to buy in and want to do something with it. So this past year, I was really challenging myself on how can I, in just a matter of a couple of weeks, give the students an idea of what it's like to keep a ledger in the business, like income and expenses, and what's the best way to do that?
Real exciting stuff.
100%, right? Riveting.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, so the students came in one day and I had 8 sections set up, and on those sections was a Monopoly board. And so they walk in and they're like, this looks like fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun today. We're just going to play Monopoly, which they did. But I also told them that I gave them a ledger. And I said, for every transaction that you make, you have to write it down. So you buy Baltic Avenue, you're going to write down that you bought Baltic Avenue, and you're going to reduce that amount of money out of your account because you started with $1,500. That's how much you get at the beginning of Monopoly. So they were recording their transactions as they went through, which some of them made it very tedious to play the game. But we took that ledger and then we ported it in, if you will. We transferred it into financial statements. So you bought Baltic Avenue, you bought Lexington, you have an asset now. That's going to sit over here on your balance sheet. But you paid the water company, that's an expense. That's not something long-term to hold on to. You borrowed money from the bank, that's a liability. Here's where we're going to put that. So they took that ledger and they put it into a set of financial statements. And then all of a sudden they understood what that process was, that every time you spend something, it has to be accounted for. And they also understood from accounting that precision matters, right? Some of them, when they reconciled it back out, they were off by $100, $5. And they were frustrated. I said, accounting matters. You have to pay attention, and you have to pay attention to the detail. So it was a really fun way for them to learn how to take a transaction that they have in business and then see where it goes from there. So you have to constantly come up with ideas like that keep them engaged and keep them wanting to come back.
Yeah.
Where did you put the go to jail? No, I'm kidding.
Well, some of them did pay $50 to get out of
That had to do
jail
with the
free.
IRS and not having an accurate ledger,
Right,
I guess. huh?
exactly.
Fines and
Yes.
penalties. Yeah.
That's another class.
Yes.
What are your ultimate goals?
My ultimate goal, I've been really thinking about that a lot this summer. That's usually when I have the creative time to kind of sit back and think. I would love my next step for this class to be an internship placement program as well. So they come out of my classes, and between their junior and senior year and senior to going to college, I would like for my students to have the opportunity to be placed in an internship that's also going to help them in the future as they apply into different schools of business. So I hope that that can become a reality. We're knocking on the door of it, so it could even happen at the end of this year.
Huh?
My other goal is that Cardinal Gibbons eventually offers what we call the Cardinal Gibbons Business or Entrepreneurship Academy, and it actually starts in their freshman year. So right now I have juniors and seniors in my program as far as the classes, but I have a barista apprentice program for freshmen and sophomores. And last year, 20% of the freshman class, so there's 400 in the class, 20% of them worked at least one shift at Holy Grounds voluntarily. And so we see a need, and that students, even as freshmen coming in, would like to be exposed to the business environment. Plus, they also have aspirations of getting a job, and this gives them experience. They work 10 hours at Holy Grounds, I will be a reference for them on an application. So that has helped a lot of our kids get jobs over the summer because they have some experience. But I would like to develop an entrepreneurship academy so that they have classes they could take every year that really grows their knowledge base. So when we are graduating these kids, they've had a great knowledge base of experience, right? Not just learning, but I've practically put it into action.
Right.
We do have a venture capitalist that supports our program, and he helps my seniors learn how to take a product concept to market. And so having that knowledge before you go to college is invaluable. So it's growing them up to the point where that is where they end. So I would like those two things to be able to happen in the very near future, if possible.
Sounds like you're rocking over there. It really does.
It's a lot of fun. And it's great to be in a school where they allow that kind of creativity. And they're willing to try, especially if it's serving the students where they are and helping them get to where they want to be.
I've read so many stories about kids not even knowledgeable enough to balance a checking account of their own. So to be at this point at your school, it's phenomenal, I think.
Right.
Absolutely phenomenal. Can I ask, you've been doing this a while, have you noticed it's easier for your students to get into some of these business schools? You had mentioned it was kind of difficult. Have you seen progress in that area?
I think we'll see it this year, coming year, as I have students that I did have some experience and guidance with. They are now applying into the schools of business because they can't apply until they're a sophomore.
Gotcha.
So that's generally when at the end of their freshman year in college, they're applying into those schools. So we'll know.
Okay.
To be continued, right?
I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I am too.
I think there'll be a big improvement
I am
over
too.
those who don't have that opportunity.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it's really exciting to hear about all the entrepreneurial spirit in young people. And I think that's, I don't know, just exciting for looking into the future. And thank you for supporting them and for what you do. It's really, really great.
Absolutely. It's exciting to see the opportunities that are in front of them, and to think about, especially with AI, I, at first, like everyone, I kind of grappled with AI. It's like, okay, what's it going to do? Especially in education, right? It's like,
right.
This is changing everything. And then I thought about the calculator. And I was like, years and years ago when the calculator came out, there were math people that are like, what do you mean we're not going to be, carrying the one and dividing it out and by hand, right? And so they were really kind of blown away by the calculator. But what that calculator did is it freed up the bandwidth in your mind so that you could focus on harder things, right? And so that's the way that I have reconciled AI in my mind as an educator is that because they have such easy access to information and they don't have to memorize and cram and all those things, they now have the bandwidth to be able to think and to be even more creative. And so I'm excited for our students that are graduating now, because in the future, I can't wait to see what they do, because they're going to have more bandwidth to think and create than I ever could have imagined in my lifetime. So that's really what keeps me going, and knowing that they have these incredible opportunities ahead because of AI. They have all this bandwidth to be creative.
That's what held me back. They banned calculators
Exactly.
when I was a kid. Couldn't use it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either.
Bandwidth. Who knows where I'd be today?
Right,
Or like
exactly.
certain
No, I mean,
parts
that's
of
a
the
good point.
test you could use it, but not other parts.
Right,
You
exactly.
need to show your work.
Well,
Exactly.
you are awesome. You are
Thank
awesome. I'm
you.
so excited about the program. I hope it catches fire.
Thank you.
Because it's desperately needed, I think,
It is.
in all education facilities
Yes.
in America. I really do. We've lost our way, I think.
We have. I think so too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
being
you're
here.
welcome.
Debbie.
It's
Thanks
my
for joining
pleasure.
us.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share.
Well, Debbie was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
know,
I think
I'm
what she's
obsessed with
doing
her.
is so exciting. What's your takeaway from it?
I mean, I feel like I'm just really inspired every time I talk to her. And I went to public school, so I think,
okay.
I know, no. I mean, I think it's so cool, the flexibility and support that she has.
Right.
And I mean, I'm jealous on behalf of public schools, because I think, that creativity can sometimes be muffled with all of the end of grade testing and different things. I mean, it's just amazing what she's built.
Yes, and I hope eventually it'll be something that public schools can actually grab hold to. They are kind of, as you say, muffled in. They're boxed in by teaching to tests and really not touching on critical thinking any longer, and a lot of the skills you need just to survive in the real life. So this is a wonderful program, and I hope it catches fire. I really do. Hey, you have some great news, because you gave some money away or something to some punk. Tell me about it.
So Carrot Top Industries, we have a scholarship called the Beacon Scholarship for Rural America, where we select one winner in the spring and two winners in the fall. And it's part of it is based on an essay they submit, where they talk about what patriotism means to them and how they've felt like they got involved in their community. And Colson's story is really cool, what he's done in his space.
He's not a punk. He's a wonderful young man. I was joking about that, probably poorly. Should we watch it? Should we have him join us, and we'll see what he has to say? I think you'll be impressed.
All right, we have a special segment this episode. We're thrilled to spotlight Carrot Top's Beacon Scholarship for Rural America, which supports students making a difference in their rural communities. This year's winner is Colson, and we can't wait for you to hear his story. So tell me about yourself, Colson. How did you first hear about the Beacon Scholarship for Rural America?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me here. I grew up in rural America. I moved a lot. I have divorced parents, so kind of between houses plus moving some, I was just kind of all over the place in different communities. The one thing that kind of stayed the same though is that I was going from place to place in small town, and I started to really understand this small town community and that patriotism that everyone shares, and not only representing your country to say, but just working together and being there for each other. And when I started applying for colleges and applying for scholarships, this was one that really resonated with me. I did a scholarship program with one of my sister's friends, and we kind of talked through some scholarships. And this is one that I found at the very beginning. And yeah, the essay was super easy to write. And that's the best thing about a scholarship, is when you can really just speak from your heart. And so I felt really true to the scholarship.
How did you come to this very knowledgeable position so quickly?
Yeah, I think initiative is definitely the thing that sets people apart. I mean, what do they say? I think talent is never gonna be hard work, or whatever that phrase is. It's said a lot better. But um I don't know. Everyone has their natural talents and all of that, but to have a good, strong sense of initiative and actually see what needs to be done and then act on it, not only letting it be fall to someone else or being too scared to act on it or relying on just your natural capabilities, but really pushing yourself to do what needs to be done. I think is the best thing that you can do. And I you say like, how did I come to realize that so young? But really, I feel like that's the best time to realize that, and it's the easiest because so many people, at least at my age, are so complacent and so unable to like act on these um, on their emotions and their values. And so like the one piece that's missing is that initiative.
I mean, you took, that initiative and started this Voices of Change. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. This was a really fun club that I started with a friend of mine, and we kind of had been seeing at our school that just a lot of people were super opinionated. We go to a very non-diverse high school in Monument, Colorado, that is in a more urban area, but I had to commute about 30 minutes every day to get there. And so at the school, a lot of people were yeah, very opinionated, kind of used to getting what they want without really doing anything about it. And so in an organized community like our high school, when they kind of voiced something but didn't do anything about it and nothing happened, there was frustration. And so we kind of bridged that gap of people talking to actually having action, and kind of showed people the importance of initiative. And so we started this club with one distinct movement that I am particularly proud of. And that's we worked with our neighboring high school who's actually a rival, and they had lost their high school jazz band, and it was an award-winning jazz band, but they cut the funding for it and there was outrage, but no one actually talking to the people who are doing this. And so my friend Jackson and I, who started the club, we started petitioning and raising money, and were able to present to the committee that had made this decision the support behind this jazz band, and we're able to use some of that funding to both raise awareness but also bring that program back. And so that was, but right before our junior year, and then going into our junior year and throughout our senior year, we led a lot of community initiatives, things such as instating senior parking spots, which I don't know if you guys are familiar, but seniors will like paint their parking spots in something that's personal to them. And that's never been something our school has had. And it was honestly one of the easiest things we had done. All that it took was one conversation and a lot of planning with our advisors at school, but no one had chosen to do it yet. So
Have they decided, hey, this kid knows what he's talking about. Let's speak up a little more and actually get involved? I mean, have you seen a difference?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Personally, me and my friend, as well as our club, have won multiple awards. And that's been really cool to see because I feel like that's a very quantifiable way to see you're doing well. But also, I think the best indicator of this change being, I don't know, I like to like really think of extracurriculars in a way that if you're not going to continue it past high school or leave some impact there, there's absolutely no point because a lot of people just stack them up for college to like to kind of pile them on top of each other. But if you're not going to actually like continue doing them, you're not going to actually feel a real impact out of them. And it's ultimately not going to contribute to the character that you're trying to like represent in your college applications, if that makes sense. And so with Voices of Change, we have been able to pass leadership on to the upcoming class. And there's been so many people that are just so excited about it. I mean, we don't have like a specific like list of people in our club because every time we met, it would be 40 or 50 people that were just coming, and most of them were new every time because everyone just wants to see what's going on there. And so with that, we're able to empower so many other people. And with passing leadership on to the next class, these new leaders are able to take it on. And the fact that they're so interested in it just shows me the impact that we've already had.
Awesome.
That's incredible. Thank you, Colson, for sharing your story. It's really inspiring. And
Thank
thanks for
you.
joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, man. Good luck
Yeah,
to
of
you.
course. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Freedom and Glory, Tales of American Spirit. We hope today's story inspired you to take action, embrace challenges, and pursue your dreams. To explore our collection of American-made flags and products that celebrate resilience and craftsmanship, Visit us at carrot-top.com. That's carrot-top.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with others who appreciate stories of determination and hope. Until next time, stay resilient and keep your flag flying high.